It's noon on a Friday. You just barely escaped another mind-numbing lecture delivered by a professor who doesn't know the definition of inflection. As you wander to your next class, you try to figure out if you really want to splurge on a tube of chapstick. Who on earth pays $1.50 for cherry-scented lip moisturizer? People who haven't been eating ramen for the past 12 nights, that's for sure. Soft lips are for rich people anyway. And as you think about this and mindlessly trudge up a treacherous hill on FSU's campus, some chick from work calls you asking to switch shift because it's Friday and she's still hungover from Thirsty Thursdays. And right when you're about to tell her off, your heart stops. Because some guy on a fancy road bike rounds the corner like he's running with the bulls in Pamplona. He passes within a hair's breadth of you and you gasp, bewildered. The chick you were on the phone with groggily calls your name as you mumble holy I almost died. And that guy? He's thinking about how many other pedestrians just like you that he has to swerve around so that he can get to class on time. Now, I freely admit I can be like that guy. Actually, sometimes I can be worse. But let's face it, pedestrians don't really pay attention when they're on sidewalks. A lot of times, they're more invested in texting and talking and listening to music with their eyes closed. And yeah, I've seen that last one happen. They're pretty much doing anything except for paying attention to where they're walking. They've gotten a little too comfortable with the sidewalk. They think that it offers some kind of protective force field. They think that they don't have to worry about the dangers of the road encroaching on their domain. And technically, they don't have to worry, because it's called a sidewalk, not a side ride, right? Yeah, that's true, but bicyclists use those sidewalks too. Why? Because they're lucky. They get the benefits of pedestrians and vehicles. They have the right to ride on sidewalks and roads. Which they choose really just depends on how they feel. Whenever I ride around campus, sometimes I find myself moving from road to sidewalk and vice versa. If I'm on the road, it's because the nearest sidewalk is too congested for me to efficiently move through. And if I'm on the sidewalk, it's because A, according to Officer Jeremy Izquierda of the FSU Police Department, sidewalks provide more direct routes to campus buildings, and B, I think it's safer than the road. And who wouldn't think that? There aren't many bike lanes on the campus roads, and the ones that do exist are usually mistaken for parking lots. Those cars are parked illegally according to Florida Statute 316-1945, which clearly states that parking is prohibited on an exclusive bicycle lane. But people do it anyway, and it poses a major safety issue for cyclists who rely on this lane. Take, for example, the bike lane on Varsity Drive in front of Wildwood Hall. People park there all the time, day or night, and cyclists have to constantly swerve out of the way, out of the safest part of the road for them, just because people don't want to walk to and from a parking garage. You'd think that with as many parking citations as FSU Transportation has doled out, that these offenders would be ticketed, but I didn't see a foreboding white envelope on either car. This may be why authorities around the world, including those in charge of the roads around campus, have been converting bike lanes to sharrows. As Officer Izquierda pointed out, they actually started taking bicycle lanes away and adding sharrows because they found that the sharrows are actually more productive than to have the bike lanes. And this is most likely because people do park in bike lanes and pose threats in doing so. Of course, I don't think that people park in bike lanes with the intention to screw cyclists over with regards to safety, but it is kind of scary in realizing that people don't see the potential repercussions of their actions. Knowing that people do it without really thinking about it means that disregarding bicycles has become some kind of ingrained social mindset, and a dangerous one at that. But it's not just the vehicular takeover of bike lanes that makes me want to ride on sidewalks. It's college drivers that scare the out of me. There were 235,461 traffic crashes in Florida in 2010, according to the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, 43,007 of which involved motorists that were 20 to 24 years old. Of course, not all of those 20 to 24-year-olds were college students, but what if they were? 43,007 is a lot of people, a lot of college students. In fact, that's a little over 2,000 more than the amount of college students who were enrolled in Florida State in the fall 2010 semester. And that's not even counting the accidents involving alcohol, where FLHSMV was quick to note that drivers 20 to 24 years of age had the highest rate per 10,000 licensed drivers of crash involvement at 17.78 and the highest rate in fatal crashes at 0.79. So yeah, I'd like to ride on the sidewalk. But the question remains, is it really safer? Or have I just been telling myself this lie to make myself feel more comfortable? And really it boils down to this. There is an equal responsibility shared amongst pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. Just because you're on a sidewalk doesn't mean that you can zone out and forget where you are. Everyone has to be considerate. Everyone has to be diligent. Just like when a cyclist on the road has to abide by the same laws as vehicles, everybody has to, as Officer Izquierdo put it, keep their head on a swivel when commuting, because sidewalks are going to be for skateboarders, for cyclists, and for pedestrians. Officer Izquierdo also noted that those who drive motor vehicles are probably the most diligent, while cyclists who are on the roadway come second. And why are pedestrians last?
I think pedestrians, at least for our campus, are going to be the least amount because, as you said earlier, they're going to be texting on their phone, they're going to be talking on the phone, they're going to be listening to music, so they may not be quite as aware of their surroundings as somebody that's an automobile who has to be aware of traffic signals.
Right.
Our pedestrians, our cyclists, our skateboarders.
But everyone should be just as aware as the next person. There's even a statute that says when riding on sidewalks or in crosswalks, a bicyclist has the same rights and duties as a pedestrian. Officer Izquierdo highlights this idea of equal responsibility best when he says,
we do have pedestrian versus vehicle and cyclist versus vehicle accidents. I'm not going to say it's always going to be the at fault of the cyclist or the pedestrian because the driver may not have been paying attention.
Right.
But it also goes twofold if you say that the driver's paying attention but the cyclist and the walker are not.
Really, safety is just a matter of environment and the people that you share it with. Pedestrians should be just as alert as cyclists and drivers because in a collision, it's not just one person who could get hurt. So am I going to start riding in the street more often? Maybe, maybe not. I'll most likely do it during the fall and spring semesters because the safety of the roadways and sidewalks depends, as Officer Izquierdo said, on the time of year. And summer is dominated by vehicular traffic. So maybe I've missed the mark on the best time to ride in the road, but I've come away more informed about my rights as a rider and the responsibilities of others. It's not fair for one group to be completely at the mercy of another. And though we've all heard the phrase, life isn't fair, we can at least strive to make our campus and commuter environment just a little bit more fair and hopefully safe. All you have to do is look.